someone check Zach Brown's desk for a Necronomicon, because those upgrades for that McLaren were some black magic voodoo. Oh my goodness. We're doing the debrief, obviously, for the Silverstone Grand Prix. We could talk
debrief.
A very brief one. You might notice that I possibly sound different, and there's a different background. I'm actually on holiday. I'm in Adelaide at the moment. Actually, before we go into anything, I did want to mention I'm down here for something called Oz Speedruns, which is a speedrunning event that we're raising money for charity. But specifically, assuming this video comes out before then, I'm commentating and couching for a run of F1 2021 Breaking Point. It's a 4-hour speed run. It's going to be in the...
Are you really?
I'm commentating for it. Yeah, Noobs asked me to do it.
Amazing.
So, so if you want to just come and basically just chat F1, because that's literally all I'm going to be on the couch for. It's 1:15 a.m. Saturday the 15th of July, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in Australia, it is sort of the real night shift. But if you're living elsewhere, it probably lines up. So yeah, come chat.
Incredible.
Come chat some F1 for a few hours. But so I'm in Adelaide. We're going to keep this brief. But man, what a race. We obviously still had Max
I didn't expect you to open it like that.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, regarding the race, what'd you think? I already think I know your opinions, but let me know what you think.
Yes, it was one of those where it shows the race that, like, it had a fair amount of battling, but it also had a lot of lower spots. Actually, That was fine. It might have been just because of the cars that were there, but I think it was a good one where, even if the strategy was fairly simple, it actually turned out that another race where you have 3 tires and actually all of them can be viable in some way, even if it is just a one-stop, can still be brilliant. That a simple safety car, a VSC, anything can completely throw it up into the wind. And it was great. So many cars up there outside of Max that were competitive. Like 90% of the grid was up there fighting. You know,
it was mental. Yeah.
You talk about the McLaren. Yes, they had the upgrades and fantastic work in both sessions by both drivers to do what they did consistently. But then you had, the Mercs that were kind of there, then the Ferraris were there, then a Williams was there for the whole race in contention, battling with them too. It's like you went, oh, the McLaren's done amazing, but then they were all so close. So perfect race weekend, where as a driver, you had to do everything right, and as a team, you had to get everything right. And I think those, that reached the podium, especially, Norris, Lewis, and everyone else who kind of got up there near the top, they did it because they performed best on track, and their teams, reacted well to the situation with a little bit of luck, which is always, if you have a little bit of luck sprinkled in, then that also makes F1 F1. So it was fantastic. It was great. Yeah. And as much as we say, Max kind of romped away with it a little bit. It wasn't an out and out romp away. Yes, there was enough happening there where a little slip up from him, it could have been a very different day. So more of this, please, and we'll be totally happy with
honestly,
the rest of the season.
That'd be crazy. Like, I want to go back. You talk about Max sort of not really romping away with it, but you look at the start and Norris straight into the lead, which is basically best case scenario. When you see Max on front, you're just like, if someone can jump him into the lead, and Norris did, and he came in, and nearly Piastri got him as well. Like, Verstappen got a bit bogged down, and nearly had two McLarens leading into the first corner, which would have been absolutely crazy. But like for the first few laps, I think it was about 3 or 4 laps, maybe 5, that Norris was leading before Verstappen got his tires up to temperature and then finally got the place back. But even then, there was still quite a few laps where Norris was like, both those McLarens, actually, they were both sort of, you heard the team radio was like, Piastri's not going to pass you. They're going to work together to try and hold on to Max as best they can. And he wasn't really getting away. Like, the McLarens were sort of following Max, and the rest of the pack was sort of cutting off from them. So, like, I was really worried after their qualifying. Like, while seeing them qualify second and third in itself is already a huge achievement given where they were.
Oh, yeah.
I was always a bit hesitant to be like, oh, yeah, the McLarens are back, because I'm like, well, let's look at their race pace. They haven't had amazing race pace. They've been sort of similar-ish to the Haas, where the Haas and the Ferrari, where they're this they just can't really hold onto the tires for too long. Like, their tire management is not as good as
And they can
others,
still finish okay, but not necessarily, as you say, where they finish in quali is going to be...
Yes.
You think they're more going to be defending than attacking. But as we saw here, they were doing some defending, but also doing plenty of attacking. It's like they were genuinely in that mix, rather than, as you say, just trying to like pull an album and try to keep everyone else behind because you're not moving forward, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, no, it was really, really good. And yeah, I think the one thing that I did notice, I'll touch on this from Max, because obviously we don't want to talk about him too long. We already know that he's probably going to win every race, maybe bar one from a mechanical issue. But like, the thing I've noticed that is a theme across a lot of these races when, a driver, be it Alonso initially, like at the start of the season, they'll be able to follow him for a little bit at the start of the stint. Like, he's not really getting away, but it's that second half of the stint on whatever tyre he's on. Somehow Max is just able to get some magic power out of his, like, magic pace out of his tyres that no one else behind him can. And that's, like, he'll be, someone behind. In this case, it was Norris. In other cases, it's Alonso, whatever. They'll be a couple of seconds behind. It's like, Max isn't really pulling away here. And then, you get to the second half of the stint, and it's just like, now he's just gone 7-8 seconds up the road. And it's like, somehow he's able to just get some real pace out of those old tyres, which I think is a really, like, underrated strength of that Red Bull. And particularly, however Max is preserving those tires early on, he's able to maximize that pace in the second half of the stint. And I think that's what secures a lot of his victories by a long way. He's just able to manage it so well. Still fair play for McLaren to end up P2, P4. Piastri obviously getting a little bit unlucky with that safety car. He pitted, I think, just before the safety car came out. And McLaren did get the jump on him because he pitted under the safety car. So, but still, P2, P4 is a huge result for them this weekend. It's very, very positive going forward. So,
no, for sure. And that bit on Max, it probably does come down to the fact that even if he does get jumped or it's close at the start, he doesn't have to push 100%. And even if he's the car in front, he doesn't have that dirty air. Something we saw that was almost reminiscent of past years here was that if during those first few laps you really pushed, you could actually overdo the tyres, and then you really had to back off to get them back in a good window. We saw that particularly at the end with Lewis and others who were fighting a lot, and then they're saying, I'm just sliding all over the place. Even it seemed like Max at the end pushed a little too hard in that final restart, and he similarly said that these are all over the place, which was partly a characteristic of the soft, but also a general... as I say, trend throughout where Max maybe doesn't have to push. And then that second phase, he actually has that life because he's kind of been cruising. And those behind who have been doing maybe a little bit of pushing to see if they can keep up, then fall off a little bit. And then that's when that gap really grows. So as much as, we say, they're getting closer to him, there's still a lot of talk to say, what's his real pace here? What if he really had to push? What if he really had to be, strict with the strategy? But still, as we say, a bit more pressure this weekend than he's had. And from the McLaren, which isn't a team they've had pressure from before, in this way this year or last year. So yes, and yes, you say it was a shame for Piastri, especially for us that he didn't get there. However, not that it detracts from his performance at all. The fact that his car still he had most of those fantastic upgrades that gave Norris the performance last time out, but he still doesn't have everything, and yet. Almost all the way through, basically, he was as fast as Norris was without any concern from quality from the race. And that's fantastic to see, right? I mean, still people going, did Piastri make the right move to go here? Did McLaren make the right move to pick him? This weekend is just like, yes. End of story almost now, book closed. Like, fantastic performance from the both of them. It's Norris, you'd expect it, and it's good to see that, yes, when he's given that machinery, as he did in Austria, it's amazing. And... yes, this second piece of the puzzle looks to have actually, 6 months ago when they slotted it in, hey, it's actually the right one to do. So
yeah, definitely.
But other driver that actually got in there, I think Lewis, fair credit to him, who started a fair bit down the grid. Everyone's saying, yes, he loves it here, but really the quality wasn't the best. And yet he was the one out of all of them, really you could say that P3, which 12 different drivers almost could have gotten. He was the one that got it, and I think best play to his team and to himself with his racecraft, his strategy and everything. So... Fair play to all of them that were up there. It was good. It was a good one. It was nice. This is a track you always hear the crowd really loud, so it was nice because you heard Lando and all the Brits racing. A lot of the crowd noise coming through, which is always really cool as well.
Speaking of Hamilton as well, like it's even more impressive his pace as well, because he was one of the ones that went off early in the first lap battle. He was off and sort of dropped a few positions and did have to fight his way back through. So I think that it shows that Mercedes does still have pace, which again I did sort of half expect coming into this weekend. I feel like they would have been a little bit stronger here, and they were. George obviously got that P5, but both of them were commenting on the radio, particularly like in that after the safety car, that part of the race, about how much pace that McLaren had, particularly on the hard tyre, which is something the second I saw Norris go onto the hard tyre, I'm like, they've ruined the podium here. They're not getting on the podium.
Yes. It was very interesting because instantly you went, oh, everyone's going to go soft, particularly because we had an example where Russell went like 2.5 times longer than expected on the soft, and then you went, oh, well, if he can do it, anyone can do it. So when you had that long VSC that was a safety car that you figured might be a longer period, you went, it's a no-brainer, right? Get yourself on a relatively new soft, you'll be good to go. And they went for the hards, and everyone was immediately like, and even Lando, to his credit, was like,
he wasn't happy.
I still went... Yes, which is understandable, right? Because he thought, well, we've got these Mercedes around us that obviously have shown they're good on the soft.
I think
even Piastri.
I think Russell was on the medium, wasn't he?
Russell was on a medium because I think he boxed beforehand. I don't remember who boxed beforehand further down, but yes, he also went for a medium, but still faster than Piastri and landed the tyres that they were on. Piastri partly because he had to box. They boxed him early to cover off. I don't remember who it was. He covered off a few other drivers that did that kind of early box, so that's why.
I think it might have been Sainz.
I think it might have been
Sainz because I know he Sainz or Leclerc. One of them. No, Leclerc went for the 2-stop, and and that's sort of...
he kind of fumbled into a 2-stop.
Yes, and then Sainz. I think he pitted just before the safety car as well, and that sort of didn't really work for Ferrari this weekend. It seems every time there's some sort of strategy call, whether it's luck related or whatever, it just seems like they're not. Just not quite there, but
But it turned out, as you say, it was that weekend where all three tyres were competent. The hards, they were a bit vulnerable at the start. Norris did some amazing defending versus Hamilton. It
was really good.
Placed that car perfectly. He didn't give him an inch, and even where Hamilton, got a nose in, Norris made sure he didn't take it. And so much so that Piastri had to defend a bit behind Russell, but they were saying 2 or 3 more laps because those hards after they warmed up were quite good, and those softer tyres were poorer. They were saying Piastri within a few laps might have had Hamilton because Hamilton and Max were already saying their tyres, were out of there. And it wasn't like Hamilton and Lando and that moved ahead. Piastri was there watching them the whole time. One mistake from Hamilton, Piastri would have had him. So again, credit to them. And as we say, when those hards came out, you went, oh boy, what are they doing? But it showed actually that, yes, maybe the soft could have been the one to go for glory, but the hard was the safe pick and it turns out to work out well.
Yep.
And it showed that, they were on it. So,
I think it also
the drivers to McLaren.
Well, I think it also shows like one of the reasons was that they were talking about how their car is still quite harsh on the tires as well, and going onto the soft would have probably been more of a risk, particularly because they didn't have a new soft. If they killed that tire
the
too
for
quickly,
glory strategy,
so I kind of understand it from that, and obviously getting the fresh hard on there, it turned out to work. They were able to switch it on. It still took Lando a couple of laps, but once he switched it on, he was able to leave Hamilton, as you say. So ended up being a very, very good call, and we got to see just how good Norris's racecraft is against a fast-charging Hamilton trying to make his way up to a P2 at his home race. I guess it's Norris's home race as well, but Hamilton's obviously always done well here.
Yes,
so to be able
it's
to
basically
hold
his
him
home
off,
circuit. Yes, for sure.
Yes, so
an absolute titan of that place.
Yeah, definitely. I want to talk about Alex Albon because I know you mentioned him as well. But particularly the Williams in general. Obviously, Albon he was fighting towards the end, and he managed to get past the Sainz and the Ferrari with a really, really good move.
Yes, because Sainz kind of got mugged and then triple mugged. Everyone
absolutely mugged. Yeah, so
on it, yes. He would have been
but I want to give like a huge shout out to Logan Sargent as well. He finished P11, very, very close to getting his first points. I'm a little sad for him that he didn't quite quite jump into the top 10, but he's I think is this the first race? Did he have the upgrades that Albon got this race, or was that next race?
I'm not sure. I don't know. It wasn't as major as the disparity in prior weekends between the McLarens. The general vibe was throughout the whole weekend, look, he still lacked a little pace to Albon, but this pace was like, if he was doing this, no one would have a problem with him being there, right? This is the first weekend you went, actually a good performance. Good on you, lad. And almost a shame you say he did deserve more, and he was close to it in a race, as we say, where there was a little bit of luck to get on top of, but otherwise it was racecraft. It was making good moves and doing well with your tires. So he beat a plethora of drivers that did finish. So kudos to him. So we'll have to see if it translates forwards. This also, I guess, gives omens towards places like Monza later in the year, where you think that Williams, given their trends, actually could be a mighty beast. So it's brought some tasty storylines. But again, Albon's still in the points, peppering away in a car where sometimes you see shots or discussions still going, this car's got a long way to go. But as you say, he was in a train of cars with the the new McLaren, the Mercedes, the Ferrari, and him, and he was fighting in there naturally, and it was it's almost weird to see the blue of the Williams. So full credit to him and the team, and of course the others are then going to be looking at this and going, well, we've if they can do it, we got to figure it out. The likes of AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, even Alpine, which sure were doing okay until not that we want to spend longer on them, but my God, poor Alpine.
That was through no real fault of their own. Had a very, very shocking weekend. Is it their second double retirement after Australia? I don't know if they've had one before that.
I can believe it. Yeah, I don't think they've had a double, but
Ocon went out early with a mechanical, electrical issue, hydraulic something. And then Gasly, again, because Stroll is a bit of a knob, decided he wanted to steer into Gasly and completely ruin his suspension.
A strange incident, because the amount of bashes and crashes and the amount of force we've seen these cars take hitting into walls, this was a very light touch, and the car instantly died, and you went, well, why isn't this could have happened 100 times before this year? So, very unfortunate. They were very bashy. Stroll, before that, had already tried to done some moves around the outside off the track, which was also a bit like, what the hell is going on here? So, yes, I think, maybe for Stroll in a time when we're trying to evaluate his performance, yes, it was a bit of a wacky wild weekend for him. Probably the wildest of all the drivers out there.
This might not go down super well on his performance review. This race.
Yes.
Maybe look at.
Maybe shattered by so many stories that people aren't talking about it. But in hindsight, it doesn't look like that was. It's pretty wild in a weekend where many drivers were showing.
Showing their class, and showing their good racecraft as well. So.
Exactly.
And I mean, really, the only other point I had, I don't want to touch on this too long, because I think we'll talk a little bit more about this again on our mid-season podcast. But Perez P6 started P15. It's another weekend where he just can't qualify. I don't know. What to say. He can't qualify high enough.
Sure, he had another challenging situation. It doesn't bloody matter. He's in a Red Bull.
He put himself in that situation. Yeah.
Yes.
I think.
Oh, brother!
You can make all the excuses like, he was at the start of the pit lane and his tires got cold because he was there for 5 minutes. It's like, well,
he's in a Red Bull.
You're in a Red Bull. Like Max was up there. Like Max made it through. Like he always makes it through.
Buddy, what are you doing?
Exactly. And I don't know that you can make any more excuses for him. He needs to do better, and I think he's already said that as well. Is like he still thinks. He feels confident enough that he'll bounce back, but he needs to start doing it soon, because it's too much longer. I know he has technically extended his gap to Alonso in P3 because Alonso finished just behind him in this race.
Yes.
But it's not going to be too long before he drops from P2 to P3 to who knows where, when all these teams...
He is lucky that right now it doesn't actually matter that he's so poor. It's not like Red Bull technically needs to rush to replace him, because Max is doing so well and because he's kind of in P2. It's like, if you're going to just absolutely crap the bed, well, do it now. But, Yes, in any other scenario, there would be probably a lot more chatter saying he is costing, Red Bull first, second, third. The story always was, back when Max was fighting when he had others as teammates, was to say he needs another teammate up there supporting him because it was Max versus the two Mercedes, and they only have one car versus two. And we had that for that year, that colossal titanic battle between Max and Hamilton. Yep. It was good because Perez was there, and he played a critical role in deciding that. But now, it's almost like now that doesn't matter. It's just kind of shambles. It's like, does Max need to, be fighting again? And then Perez will be like, yeah, all right, I'll come join you. But, so it's just like, nah, we'll get him next time, boys. And they're like, all right, dude. Yeah,
I don't know, man. It's I know that Horner's obviously come out and supported him, but I feel like, again, we'll talk about this more on the podcast because
of course
there's a lot of talking points.
And we'll have a few more races to also review as well.
yeah. Maybe you could salvage something before then, but I think we've said it. I think the last few races he needs to start doing something real soon. Otherwise, I think his seed is very much at risk. But yeah, I mean, we look ahead to, unless you had any other points to mention.
No. I mean, ever so briefly, I just want to say FIA did a pretty good job, I think, all around as well this weekend from what I saw. Not too much farcery, maybe a little things here and there, but overall nothing you'd go, what the hell are they doing, right?
Yeah, I do think Stroll probably should have got that penalty for overtaking around the outside.
Yes. I won't go into it. If you want to know about something you could poke out, which was Lance Stroll overtaking around the outside, listen to the races review because they did a good breakdown of that and some analysis. So we won't go into it. There's an argument to say they could have handled that better. I think it was nice to see track limits come up again, but in a natural way, where a few people got a black and white flag and then they stopped doing it. You're like, great, everything's back to normal on that front. You saw some pop up halfway through the race. You're like, oh no, it's we're doing this again. But no, and then it just didn't pop up because the drivers went, okay, noted, and they just didn't do it. So nothing much to mention there as well.
No, all good. But I guess as I was about to say, we look forward to we've got another double header coming up. We go to Hungary and then Spa the weekend after. And then we have the mid-season break. So I do think Hungary, we'll go into our preview, but Hungary's obviously a slightly different track to this one. So we might see some changing around again.
Aston or something back up there,
We'll see how we go. But hopefully everything has worked on my end. I've been noticing my webcam on Discord is going very glitchy, so hopefully my computer hasn't exploded and I don't lose all the audio and the video is glitchy. But if it is, hey, thanks for watching. And if you're listening on Spotify, exactly. Let us know your thoughts on the race. Are you excited to see McLaren up there? Are you excited with the races going forward? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And tune into that F1 2021 Breaking Point speedrun because it's going to be 4 hours of fun. And I'm going to absolutely shit on everyone's bad opinions.
Nice.
But thanks for watching or listening, everyone. And we'll see you in the next video. Take care.
Ciao.
Bye.